Good morning and welcome to Bolton. I'm Joyce Stilley, the Administrative Officer for the Town of Bolton, and this is a live show on the first and the third Tuesdays of each month from 10:30 to 11 a.m. This show is rebroadcast on the second and fourth Tuesdays at the same time period. The show is a continuing effort to promote open communications within the community, and if you have an upcoming event or would like to just get PR out about your organization, or have a question about how town government operates, please contact me at the town hall and we'll try to get a show on the air that covers that topic. This time of year, I always use one of my personal favorites that's not related necessarily to the town of Bolton, but I always invite in Special Olympics as a special show. And so today I have a new representative from Special Olympics, Mike Mason, who is the Senior Vice President and CFO for Special Olympics Connecticut. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Joyce.
We've known each other for
a long
many
time.
Years.
Yes, decades and decades, yeah.
Perhaps you could start out just telling us a little bit about yourself and your involvement in Special Olympics.
Well, I have worked for Bo Doherty at Special Olympics Connecticut since 2001, so I've been an employee this fall. It'll be 18 years. Previously, I've been a coach and a volunteer for Special Olympics for many years. Actually started out as a hugger back in the old times when I was 8 years old with my cousin Charlie, who was an athlete in the New Haven area, and went on. I had the honor of serving with the Shrivers as the Chief Financial Officer for the 1995 World Games that we hosted here in Connecticut. So I worked there from 92 through 95. And had the joy of being a coach at World Games for volleyball, the first ever unified volleyball in 1991. So I've been around the movement for a long time and really believe in the mission that we deliver to folks.
And you talk about the mission. Let's talk about the mission of Special Olympics. And people may not know about Special Olympics. They think that it happens once a year. It's just in Connecticut. You can talk a little bit about that.
Well, the scope of Special Olympics is now in 172 countries. It serves over 5 million athletes, 1 million coaches worldwide. So the program has grown immensely over the last 50 years. We're in the end of celebrating our 50th year. The Special Olympics movement looks at July of 1968 as the real start of it, and we'll talk a little later about the history of that. And you are right, there is a misconception that Special Olympics, when people see it on the news, we have our summer games coming up this weekend, it's a huge event for us. They'll see it on all the various news stations and in the papers, and they think that's Special Olympics. You have this event every year, and isn't that wonderful? And Special Olympics in Connecticut is a year-round. We have 4 major statewide events. We have 14 other statewide on a smaller scale events, and we have over 100 year-round events in the schools, and we'll talk a little later about unified sports and what that's about. But Special Olympics is offered in 95% of all the public high schools in Connecticut. So the scope of it, I don't think the public really understands that, or they go to a unified sports event and they don't even realize, and which is great because it's not differentiated, that it's just another varsity sport in that school. So that's the kind of the broader sense of what we do. And we offer, so across those 4 sports seasons, we serve over 12,500 people in the state of Connecticut. We have active volunteers, probably 7,000 in a given year. We have over 10,000 on record that have volunteered with us over the last several years. So it really is a very comprehensive program. It's not the one thing you think of, or sometimes it's, oh, you have winter games and summer games, and it's so much more than that.
And people even think summer games are coming up, they think track and field. Well, there's far more going on than track and field this next weekend.
Absolutely.
And we should talk a little bit about where it is, and if people want to attend, where they should go.
Well, so this weekend, so the 7th, 8th, and 9th will be our summer games. And this year, opening ceremonies on Friday night is at Jestow Field at Southern Connecticut State University. It begins at 7:15. I would suggest people try to get there by 6:30 with the traffic and everything. We will have, we're going to have 2,650 athletes, 800 coaches and several thousand volunteers, not counting the public that comes out to embrace the event. So it starts there, and then we continue with competition on Saturday and Sunday. At Southern Connecticut State University will be aquatics. We'll have race walking in the indoor field house. We'll also have tennis there. Those events are sponsored by Foxwoods at the pool. We have ESPN taking care of tennis for us, and they have great sponsors for a long time. We are this year, because of work that's being done at Southern, people that are used to coming to see all our track and field events, what we call athletics, all those events have been moved over to the Yale facilities. So just across the street from Yale Bowl, across Derby Avenue, Route 34, at the DeWitt Kyler Track Complex. That's where all the track and field events that everybody thinks about will be there. At the Yale West Campus in Orange, Connecticut, right off of I-95, very easy to get to. It's the old Bayer pharmaceutical campus. Yale's made a beautiful campus there. We cycle at that facility, and then we play over in Hamden, Connecticut, right on Skiff Street. Beautiful facilities. TD Bank is hosting us there at Hamden Hall Country Day School, so soccer there. So much more than track and field.
Definitely. And besides that, we should also mention that everything is free for spectators to come and watch as well, from opening ceremonies on. And you have a relationship with one of the TV stations that helps cover some of these games.
Yes, so NBC Connecticut has been a long-time supporter of Special Olympics, and they come out and we get great coverage. Their personalities will be part of the opening ceremonies on Friday night. And so there's a lot of excitement around that, and we do get coverage from the other networks come out as well, depending on what's going on that weekend, to highlight some personal interest stories about certain athletes and volunteers, as well as the competitions that people see. And I should mention that in addition to competition, we have a lot of other things going on.
Yes.
So there's an Olympic town that's going to be set up both at Southern Connecticut State University, and we also, through the generosity of the Knights of Columbus that run that for us and fund that as a sponsor, they also are setting up a like thing at Yale at the track and field events, so that athletes don't miss out on that opportunity. And our Olympic town is for when people have downtime in between competitions. And it's a great way to make new friends, meet people. There's live entertainment, so there's a stage going all day long, and there could be anything from rock bands to violinists to Irish step dancers. All kinds of things go on, and that activity changes every 30 or 40 minutes. We have a garden club that comes out and helps athletes to understand how to pot plants, and they get to take that home. There's all kind of carnival games that the Knights of Columbus run for us, and they win all kinds of prizes. So it's a great, fun celebration throughout the weekend. And then on a serious note, we offer a Healthy Athletes program. So critically important to us as healthy athletes. We've learned over the years that our athletes aren't always physically capable and in shape to train and participate in the sports that we offer to them. And so over the last 10 years, Special Olympics worldwide has actually become the largest provider of healthcare services in the world. And it's not something that was ever part of our mission when we started out, but it's become an ever increasing important part of what we do for people with intellectual disabilities.
And we were talking before the show how over the years, because that's for this weekend, that's the place that I volunteer at, and how it has changed and grown, and the clinicians that come, it's just constantly been improving and growing and follow-up, and it's at no cost to the athletes. That we talked about, UConn Dental comes, there's eye exams, they make glasses on site, fit feet, healthy hearing, fun fitness. I know there's more because now there's minds. Strong
Minds, right. So we have, through the Healthy Hearing program, people come in, they have audiology done.
Yes.
People have had their hearing aids adjusted. People have had them cleaned, serviced, new batteries put in, all free of charge. All that we do for healthy athletes is all free of charge to the athletes. It's all through the wonderful sponsors we have. We're very fortunate to have our health program sponsored by Webster Bank and HSA Bank, which is one of their wholly owned affiliates, to make that possible for our athletes. And so in large part, through support from other organizations like the Gelisano Foundation, we're able to provide that. And so we have Healthy Hearing, Fit Feet, you mentioned. Podiatrists are there. They look at the athletes, see what their needs are. They get free inserts for their shoes. In many instances, they get free sport shoes given to them, donated. MedFest is a new thing that we're adding in 2019. That'll happen this fall at the Yale West campus, and it's giving athletes free medical exams. So you're getting a free physical so that you could participate. In order to be an athlete in Special Olympics, you must have a current physical on file with all your medications and everything, so we know what people are challenged with when they come to our events. And so that's going to start happening this year. We're very excited about that. Fun Fitness, again, trying to keep people active. You don't have to be in competitive sport to be active. And so in terms of a quality lifestyle, to do things that are just fun, that you can do with your friends. We'll talk a little bit about unified fitness a little later on, but we've taken Special Olympics offering non-competitive sporting opportunities and activities to keep people active, just to have a fit lifestyle. Health promotion, again, talking to people about making sure you go for a physical, making sure you get your teeth cleaned, all those kind of things that we take for granted, just lifestyle things. Opening Eyes, you mentioned, so we have a wonderful thing that we do through a partnership with Lions Club International and many doctors who volunteer in Connecticut that come out. So they have all the equipment that you would see in a doctor's office, in an eye doctor. They give people full eye exam. They adjust their prescription. They make glasses. Last summer games, we ground and gave out almost 500 pairs of glasses that weekend. So an athlete comes in, they get checked, they come back later that day, here's a pair of glasses. Those glasses can be sports specific, so you could get swim goggles that are prescription. You could get sports goggles like to be an outfielder in baseball. You could get sunglasses that are shatterproof, that are sports specific to what you're doing. So Opening Eyes has been an amazing thing, and that's been at the core for Special Olympics for a while now. Strong Minds, working with people. We realize that the population we serve with people with intellectual disabilities can have a huge amount of stress in their life. So stressors that we don't even think about normally. And they also don't have the skills to cope with that stress in their life. And so Strong Minds is giving people practical approaches to practice every day to help try to put into context things that you're dealing with in your life, and then how to stay calm and overcome those things, to have a clear mind to deal with it instead of getting all upset and flustered and you're not able to work through that. And we also give aids to not only the athletes, but their coaches, their caregivers, their family members, to try to help everybody support this individual with any type of anxieties that they have in their life. And then you mentioned Special Smiles. So Special Smiles, athletes come in, they have their teeth checked, they have a complete oral exam, and then whatever work is needed for them is determined at that point. And we're very excited at Special Olympics to now offer follow-up care. So we had so many people that we started to look at the statistics year after year. We're giving them oral exams. We're telling them they need to have a cavity filled. And then it gets to the point where the tooth has to be removed because it's gone unchecked for 3 or 4 years. And for us, we just said this can't continue like this. It's just not acceptable. And so as a movement, Special Olympics really got into the world of follow-up care. So we have a network of doctors and dentists across Connecticut that will accept people to come in, and they'll accept whatever insurance they have as full payment for their services, and or they'll give them free, if they don't have insurance, they're going to provide them free care for cavities and things like that to follow up with. And so, you know, that and cardiological exams, and we've actually had people who've gone through the cardiological exams with cardiologists who have determined they had very significant issues with their heart, which would have they would have never been dealt with. So very important, and we're really excited that this Friday night at our reception prior to opening ceremonies, we have just found out from Special Olympics International that we've received the status of healthy community. And so what healthy community means is there was all these different milestones we had to do. But we've trained over 950 healthcare providers in Connecticut that are doing both the checks at our events and giving follow-up care to athletes. We've gotten into UConn Medical School, Yale Medical School, the medical school at Quinnipiac, where these students actually are getting into their curriculum how to provide services to individuals with intellectual disabilities. Because some people are nervous, they don't know about it. It's not that they're trying to discriminate, they don't understand. And so when there's a difference, sometimes people avoid that, it's uncomfortable. And so we're starting very young with med students to get that comfort level with them, train them with our population of athletes, so when they go out and practice in the world, wherever they end up, they're gonna be very open to helping people with intellectual disabilities. And exciting for us is we're one of 30 programs in the whole world that have received this healthy community status out of the 172 countries and all the states in the United States, which are each a separate program. We've received that recognition, and we're proud of it, but it's really a starting point for us. We need to continue to build that and to grow our network so that our athletes always have the appropriate health care they need.
Well, and that's one of the things that certainly Connecticut Special Olympics has been a leader in many things in my mind, and this is one of them. Unified sports you talked about, that's certainly one of the things that been a leader in, thanks to Bo. But it's changing lives, and it's not just the lives of the athletes, it's the rest of us too.
Absolutely.
The school program is another perfect example of that outreach that took unified sports to another level.
Right, and so unified sports, just for people that don't know what that is, unified sports being, we put together teams of athletes who are both individuals with or without intellectual disabilities. They play together as unified teammates. We have at the highest level in terms of skills, so we try to group in all of our sports people by skill level so that there's not a huge disparity in the competition. And so at the highest level, if I go to a high school unified sports basketball tournament, there are athletes, whether they're special needs or they're the unified teammates, slam dunking a basketball, drilling three-point shots. We also have at lower levels athletes where we have lowered the hoop, or we actually have hula hoop like discs hanging under the baskets that the athlete will shoot at, where the athlete's in a wheelchair, has some profound challenges in their life, and their unified partners are there helping them be a part of what's going on. And it's exciting. I said earlier, 95% of all the high schools in Connecticut offer unified sports. In the most developed scenarios, the sports conferences, so the Naugatuck Valley League, they have a very robust unified sports program in all of the high schools in that league. The athletes, the athletic directors put together the competition schedule, just like any other varsity sport. After school, you get on a bus, you go to another school, you have your head-to-head competitions. They have a tournament at the end. They end up with an NVL Unified Sports Champion. And I went to a big pizza party that was hosted at Oxford High School at the end of a sports season. I was talking to athletes and their unified teammates, and I thought I said, what is the greatest thing about this for you? And all of the unified teammates said to me, I really thought I was going to come here and help somebody, and it helped me. It helped me find who I was. It helped me find my voice. It helped me to know that I fit in, that I have a group of friends that I'm with that really care about each other. And it's exciting. I was hearing about plans that they're all going to the prom together. They're all doing things like that. Parents telling me, thank you for unified sports, which is not me. Bo created it, and it's a worldwide movement now. But saying that my son or daughter was never invited to a non-family birthday party until they were part of unified sports. And now they have this great social life. They're doing all this stuff. The sports was only a way in Bo's mind to get people to come together and realize we're not all that different. We all have anxiety, we all have challenges, they're just different. And some of the athletes that I talked to, what they love the best about it is, you're the gold medal basketball team, and the young man's telling me, I love the bus ride. The bus rides are awesome. We rock out to the music. And so they're just kids, right? Everybody just wants to be a kid. And so it's been wonderful. And to just go back so I don't gloss over it. So Bo Doherty is our president.
Correct.
And Bo created the concept of unified sports when he worked in a state hospital in Danvers, Massachusetts, and some similar to a Southbury training school in Connecticut. And back then he was a recreational director, and he met people that, I'm 55 years old, they were my age, they had never left that facility. They were brought there as an infant and they never left that facility. And he wanted to change that. He really felt that you needed to expose them to the greater community. And this is before there were group homes. People were like, are you crazy? You can't do that. And he would take them on outings. Initially, it was just going out on recreational things that we take for granted, that you might go to a place like a Mystic Seaport or a Sturbridge Village with your family. Well, he was taking these folks out that lived there and he worked with. Then he started to develop them doing sports in the community and playing, say, in a softball league and splitting up teams so that you had a few of his people from the institution with people on teams in the community playing together and just interacting and being a part of that. And the stories that Bo talks about, where some of these families would come and take the person and take them for the afternoon and try to, do things with them, with their family, and the kind of connections that made in their lives, where they never had that. Their life was void of that type of interaction with people outside of the institutional setting that they were in. Mrs. Shriver, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who founded Special Olympics, brought Bo to meet her, and he talks about being brought out to Hyannis and meeting with her and not backing down, that he felt that was the right path forward. And she had her concerns were talking about how it makes a person feel if you can't perform at the same level, or her whole focus was always on the athlete. Everything is athlete-centric, athlete-focused. And that's how Bo runs Special Olympics in Connecticut. And it was always about that. And so if you had these other athletes playing sports with them, would it take away from that focus? Right. I know in 1990 and 91, I trained a unified volleyball team to go to the first ever unified volleyball World Games out in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And Mrs. Shriver came to a New England leadership conference that we did in Southbury, Connecticut. And she asked to talk with me, because Bo said, oh, they're doing unified. And so she brought me in, and those were all her questions were around, how do the athletes feel? How does this impact their self-image? How does, all those kind of things. That was the whole focus. It wasn't about how good is your team, how do you play, do you include the athlete all the time? And we had certain modifications that made sure that the athletes were involved in all levels of play, at all levels that we have competition. And she was satisfied with that, so she let that continue as something that we could bring to the World Games in 1991. But Bo had that perspective and that dream, and he stuck with it. And if you've ever met Mrs. Shriver, she's a very powerful individual,
yes.
And you have to be very sure of yourself, what you're talking to her about, to advance a concept like that. And she let it go forward, and now on the world stage, unified sports is global. ESPN is a worldwide supporter of unified sports. Without it, we could have never grown it to that extent across all these countries. But there's approaching 2 million people in the world that compete in unified sports now. That is really the future. We still offer traditional Special Olympic sports where all the athletes are competing against athletes with intellectual disabilities, but unified sports is growing. And I really think that the concept Bo had about what happens off the field, the importance of the relationships and the dynamic of those relationships off the field when you're not at practice, when you're not at competitions, what that's going to mean to enrich people's lives. That was spot on. That's what has happened, and we've seen it grow worldwide.
Definitely. And we talk about worldwide, we've talked about summer games, but throughout the year, there's many other competitions that go on in Special Olympics Connecticut and the world.
Oh, absolutely. So locally, there's competitions where we talk about in the unified sports program. So there's all those head-to-head track and field events, volleyball events. Soccer is a big sport for us. Basketball is a big sport for us. So that happens year-round, 3 sports seasons throughout the year, just like anybody else. And we're proud to do that with the CAS-CIAC. So the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference, we're part of that in unified sports. So they have, all the sports that take place are under the same guidance as the sports, all the varsity sports, junior varsity sports in Connecticut. That takes place all throughout the school year. And then we have all the events that are just invitationals or qualifying events. We just held northern and southern time trials so that those athletes are...
Except for the rain.
Yes, a little bit of rain. So we got through that, and we did that down at Weston High School and up at Loomis Chaffee in South Windsor. And those athletes then progress on to the state games. Right. So there's all these other different competitions at all levels. So you could have a competition with 100 athletes at it, or you could have summer games with 2,650 athletes at it. That happens year round. There's very few times in Connecticut where there's not something going on. And then if you wrap into it law enforcement torch run, so the state, in our state, we have a very robust law enforcement torch run program. Law enforcement raises funds and awareness for us across the state. Starting tomorrow, they're going to be running across the whole state of Connecticut in 11 legs, carrying a torch of hope for us all the way through all the towns, or not all, but almost all the towns in Connecticut, to culminate at opening ceremonies. The final leg, they'll run into the stadium at Southern and light the cauldron that will burn for the whole weekend around our event. And what they do, our athletes run, mile segments with them. We have some athletes that might run on and off all day on a truck, and over the course of the day run 15 miles with law enforcement. Town to town, they hand off that torch. The state police lay it out and guide the torch throughout Connecticut in all the legs. But we have folks from federal law enforcement involved with us, university and college security and police departments are a huge part of what we do. They're running events all the time to raise awareness and funds for us year round. Hundreds and hundreds of events. It's amazing. And
I could have you for a guest for a week, I think.
Oh, to try to go that list.
To try to go through everything. We're actually down to about 2 or 3 minutes left. So what would you like to close on?
Close on. So our athletes are real athletes. So at the highest level, we have a long distance running team. They run in the Marine Corps Marathon, New York, Boston. They run a marathon in under 2.5 hours. Right. We have World Games, National Games. So we talked about USA Games. We just had USA Games in Seattle last year.
Yes.
The next USA Games will be hosted in Orlando by Disney in 2022. World Games. We just came back summer from Abu Dhabi in the UAE. The next World Winter Games will be in Sweden in 2021, and the next World Summer Games will be in Berlin, Germany in 2023, and we send athletes to those. So if people want to get involved, certainly www.soct.org. You can learn all about volunteering online. We'll get back to you. We have thousands of people we need every year to run our events. If you like to support us, there's ways to support us online. It talks about all the special event fundraising. We do golf tournaments over the edge. We rappel down the Mohegan Sun Casino. We have golf tournaments at Foxwoods and poker tournaments at Foxwoods. We have all kinds of things going on year round to raise funds for us. So just reach out to us that way.
And that's volunteering. It can be a one day, it can be a longer commitment. Maybe you want to be a unified partner. There's just tons of opportunities. Thank you, Mike, very much for coming out today and joining me. Just a couple of closing things. The Board of Selectmen will be meeting tonight. Obviously, we're still finalizing the budget for next fiscal year. We're also going to be discussing a grant for Bolton Heritage Farm House to replace the roof on that. The next show is actually going to be Principal Joe Maselli, and we're going to talk about NEASC, which is the accreditation program that the high school has to go through every 10 years. Based on that, that's the close of this show, and I want to thank Community Voice Channels for its continued support, and I will see you in 2 weeks.